Social media reigns supreme as the #1 form of communication in our modern world. This has its pros and cons, mostly leaning towards the latter if you think about it. You have Twitter, which is filled with echo chambers of narcissists and raging lunatics. Facebook, or Meta, who cares, is filled with ignorant old people sharing decade-old minion memes. Instagram has egotistical drama queens and scams, and Snapchat is just a cesspool of lunacy with the worst discover feature any app has ever seen. There are many social media platforms that you could discuss, but there's one I've always wanted to focus on in particular: Tinder. This has to be one of the most toxic and mentally bankrupt apps I've ever been on, and I will show you why. For a while I wasn't sure how to approach this video, so I decided to go back on Tinder and see the problem firsthand, while recording some of it of course. Now, while there have been many studies in the past relating to Tinder's success rate or lack thereof, I felt like doing my own study. Basically, I want to showcase how many matches somebody can get based on different conditions. I'll be making 3 separate Tinder profiles, recording my progress with them over the course of a week. My dependent variable is the amount of people I swiped right on over the course of a week. The independent variable will be the amount of people who match with me. I also want to note how many people interact with me, as in those who initiate a conversation. At the end, I'll calculate a percentage of success. The first profile I'll be making is for myself actually. I've of course used Tinder before, so I know what to expect. I have a really strong idea of what my results will be, but who knows. So for pictures I included a selfie I took 2 minutes before recording, and another from a few months ago with some of my Lego sets in the background. For good measure, I added some goofy meme images just to show I have a sense of humor, something the average Tinder user doesn't seem to have. Made my bio short and sweet, and then I began matching. Almost immediately, someone liked my profile, so I checked their Instagram, and what do you know, they're promoting an OnlyFans. So of course I unmatched them, though I'll still count this as part of the data. While I was swiping, a pop-up asked for my preferred pronouns. Oh wow, neo-pronouns, those totally aren't used by people craving attention. Alright, ignoring that, let's just get to swiping. In total, I swiped on 52 profiles before likes expired. And no, I'm not buying more, I have standards, believe it or not. The next morning I actually matched with someone and 3 others swiped right on me first. Genuinely surprising to me, not gonna lie. I sent one of them an Eric Andre gif and the other a Markiplier gif. I mean, how could you resist that? I only had a brief conversations with 2 of them, but I knew nothing would come out of it. Though both said they swiped right due to the Jeff the Rizzler image. And I thought that would lower my chances. By the end of the week, after swiping on 500 accounts, only 10 of them matched with me, and only 4 of those actually responded and sort of had a conversation. None of these went anywhere, of course, which I will dive into later on in the documentary. So out of everyone I swiped right on, only 2% of them also swiped right, and 0.88% actually texted something. Next, I wanted to make a profile as my friend Melvin. I of course got these images from him, as I told him of this experiment and he wanted in. I consider Melvin more conventionally attractive than I am, so I wanted to see how many more matches he'd get. The first week I tried this, he only got 1 match from some bitch trying to promote an OnlyFans. I was genuinely confused how he wasn't getting any matches, so I restarted it. Then he got some matches, but it's incredibly bizarre that this would happen in the first place. Here I was witnessing Tinder's algorithm hide his profile to this extent. But after the week's end, he got 7 matches and 5 responded back, which was still surprisingly lower than my results. Only 1.4% swiped right when compared to my 2%, with half responding back in some way. Now for the purposes of this video, I really wanted to see Tinder from a new perspective, a female perspective. So I made a profile as my friend Emma, who let me use her likeness. And only a few minutes into making her account, I got 9 likes. After a minute of swiping, I got 2 matches. Within half an hour, the account got 50 likes. The stats I got from this part of the experiment were legit mind-blowing. And I even had to turn off notifications for the app just to not get overwhelmed by it all. Almost half the people I swiped right on matched with me, and a good chunk of those sent a message. Some are weirder than others, and this was just them initiating a conversation. Overall, I got 230 matches and 89 responses, which is literally 23 times better results than me and my other friend could get. This just perfectly sums up the different experiences one could have on Tinder, which leads to my first main point. So it's pretty obvious by now that women on Tinder have better luck than men do, and that's been supported by many other studies besides my own. On average, around 70 to 75% of all Tinder users are men, with only 25 to 30% being women. This creates some problems as your average straight man has less to choose from than your average straight woman. It's just basic supply and demand that makes everything on here incredibly imbalanced. Now I went further into this and many other points on a podcast episode I did with my friend Sean. He began a Reconnect movement that aims to encourage people to spend less time on social media and more time interacting with people in person. I've always been super supportive of this, so I knew I had to join in on the 11th episode. We were pretty productive on it.
Number 11, Rob's Media. The last thing you'd want on your Reconnect podcast is Rob's Media. And as it turns out, that might be what you get. So I really wanted to do that.
That's awesome. That's perfect.
Something we mentioned throughout is how insane it was that the female profile I set up got as many likes as it did.
I was literally mind blown last night when I set this up because this is like the amount of matches I get in a year.
Right. Yeah.
And this is in less than a fucking day.
Yeah, that's wild.
I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah, that's wild.
And I had to turn notifications off for Tinder because of how many notifications I'd get. Because oh, it's this person. I had to turn it off. And honestly, I don't think turning off notifications really helps. Like if you're trying to avoid going on there, because it makes you want to go on there more. Because you're not getting messages, so you go on there.
So you go to check, and then you know you're gonna get a bunch.
Yeah, I know. It's fucking crazy.
Simply put, if you're a man, you're going to have a harder time getting matches on this app. This is not only proven through my study, but many others that note the stark contrast between both genders. Men tend to swipe right at the same rate they swipe left, while women rarely swipe right at all. They tend to have higher standards since they have much more to choose from, compared to men who just kinda swipe on whoever in order to get a smidge of attention. Now I'm not trying to fully frame this as women having it really easy on this app, cause that's not always the case. But in contrast, men have it statistically harder, and this usually gets ignored by the general public. In fact, I'll probably get a few comments mocking this for being something an incel would say, but in reality, even really conventionally attractive men will also have a hard time on Tinder. With so many dudes on here, only the top 10% or so will get above average amount of interactions, compared to most women getting that much easier. Also, I've been told by many female friends that many girls on here just looking for validation. They aren't looking for actual relationship, just some free compliments to make themselves feel good about themselves. This would be fine if those who did this were more honest on their intentions, but they never are. Not all girls do this on here, it's just common enough to get mentioned. I wanted to end this section off by mentioning the Natasha Aponte incident, which I first heard of due to Ordinary Things video on Tinder. I'll link that below. It's one of the many things that inspired me to make this documentary. It was a real-life Tinder experiment with seemingly good intentions that instead contributed to the problem at hand. Natasha is some actress I don't give a shit about who teamed up with some knockoff Joey Salads named Rob Bliss. They hired 50 full-time staff to manage Tinder accounts under Natasha's likeness, tricking thousands of men into showing up for a date. The hundreds that came were then told that they would be competing in various challenges, all for the prize of going on a date with her. Many laughed at this or shouted profanities, while the rest actually went along with this.
Dating apps are very difficult, and I said maybe I can bring everyone here in person and see how that goes. So, do you have what it takes?
Most men left or were immediately eliminated.
Anyone under 5'10", please leave as well.
They all humiliated themselves just to go on a date with someone that could care less. What I hate most about this event is that they kept prefacing that this was all for social awareness, that they wanted to show how hard men have it on Tinder while contributing to the problem as much as possible. In fact, they not only did this out in public, but filmed it for millions to see. These chuckle nuts did nothing but ridicule a bunch of misguided people to prove something that we already knew. This has to be the worst prank I've ever seen, not counting those that, killed people. Though obviously some people here died from embarrassment or exhaustion.
But it's just it was very difficult and frustrating, but it's addictive. It's probably the most addictive social media app in my opinion.
Really? Why do you say it's the most addictive? Because
this is what I'm referring to it in the video. I'm going to refer to it as mental gambling. It hits the same centers of your brain as gambling, essentially. Like when an adult goes to a casino, and they drink a shit ton of beer, and they put slot machines and all that shit. It's like the same sort of thing, but I'd say it's worse because you're not knowing that you're being mentally toyed with, because it just hits the same sensors, because you're basically like gambling. Oh, can I get this person? Can I get this person? When you swipe right on them, and you get like anticipation to see, and then when they do, you get like a huge dopamine rush to your brain, and you're like, oh because it really boosts your confidence, and then it goes way down when they immediately unmatch you for whatever reason, or they just don't talk to you. And for men, they're expected to respond first.
Right.
I see that happening. A lot of women have that in their bios. They're just like, oh, I'm not going to respond first. You have to do it.
Right.
Like, they blatantly say that. I mean, at least they're honest, but I'm just, that's just what happens with it.
Yes, mental gambling, as I call it, is basically what this app entails. Instead of wasting money at the casino, you're unknowingly wasting your time and losing more and more confidence in yourself. The only supposed reward is just a chance at talking to someone, or at least someone who actually wants to talk to you. For guys specifically, this is hard as there is a 50-50 chance that you'll even get some sort of response. It gives men much more of a dopamine rush when they do get a response, or even if they match, since as we discussed before, it's statistically less likely than the opposite gender. And even though women have higher luck, it's definitely just as hard trying to find someone who will legit date you. Tinder uses such a basic human emotion like love and forms a harmful algorithm around it to make it hard for everyone.
And like Instagram, Snapchat are selling like, let's get connected, let's stay connected with our friends, but really you're just wasting, not wasting your time, but you're getting sucked into an app that's actually pulling you away from connecting with your friends, and it's like keeping you isolated. So it's like, let's connect, but we're going to be isolated. And Tinder's like, let's find love, but really you're just going to get hurt and have meaningless sex. It's like,
yeah. And the big thing with Tinder too, they purposely want to keep you on there. They don't want you to find love, because if you do, you're going to get off their app.
Oh.
And that's a big thing. I still need to do more research into that, but when I first deleted Tinder, I kept getting ad after ad after ad to re-download it on YouTube, on other social medias. It's ridiculous.
Whoa.
It only goes away if you re-download it, which of course I did for this experiment. I'm sure when I delete it again in a week, because I'm ending the experiment on Friday, I'm going to get a shitload of ads again.
Obviously, you're going to have targeted ads, but the way Tinder does it is malicious. The ads they target me with are on re-downloading it, wanting me to give it a second chance. It's super manipulative and scummy, but I'm sure it works most of the time or they wouldn't do it. I would get these ads on YouTube and even TikTok, an app I only use to watch shitpost memes. This is gonna be hilarious! And I'm sure I'd see more of it if I use other apps more often. All of this just gives you an incentive to use the app more, as the promise of a relationship or something like it is a universal concept. Something I find really messed up is how Tinder hides certain users. This even happened while I was doing the experiment. They will hide your profile from those you swipe right on. The more the app makes you seem unwanted, the more you'll want to change that and pay up. Tinder obviously just wants more money like every other company does, but they're more egregious. They have all these payment services with the promise of getting you better success, even if a more worrisome purpose. I'm not going to be naming them all since there are so many, but here are a few. Tinder Plus is around $30 a year and allows you to rewind or see profiles you swiped left on again. Tinder Gold is $60 a year unless you're over 30. If you're about that age, it's $100 a year, which is the definition of fucked up. It basically just lets you see who swiped right on you before you even match with them. It even gives you 5 super likes a week, along with features from Tinder Plus. Tinder Platinum is a $20 increase from Tinder Gold and adds on the features of letting you message people before you match with them. There are also some other one-off things for more likes, boosts, or people to see your profile, and other schemes to make you shill out more shekels. Men will most likely be the ones that buy these, as statistically they will have worse luck on Tinder, and the older you are, the more expensive it will be, which feels like it should be illegal. Imagine going to a club and they have you pay more because you're 10 years older than the average partygoer there. Now in this segment, I really want to critique certain kinds of people, both men and women, who go on Tinder. The best way to do this is just by showing their bios. Of course, I'll be blurring their faces, names, and social media handles. Girls first, then the boys. The first person is actually someone I matched with. Their bio reads, "How am I all to fucking blame that I'm only good enough for just sex and being ghosted afterwards when men continue to find ways of telling women lies about their looks online, or just plain mean? If this were a man, he'd immediately be called out in some sort of incel behavior. It just comes off as whiny instead of her coming off as a justified victim. The funny thing is, this is how she responded to me. I asked what she's looking for on Tinder, with her answering, 'You could be my weatherman, broski.' What the hell does that mean? I asked her to elaborate and she unmatched me a day later. If you can't feed me grapes, give massages, and give me princess treatment, respectively, swipe left. I like pickup lines, so if you want to message me with just a hey, you most likely are not going to get a reply back. I have a nose and belly piercing now, if that means anything. Nudes are overrated. Send me a video of you reading out loud so I know you're not fucking illiterate, lol. Pros: can cook and roll. Not addicted to nicotine. Don't have an OnlyFans. Will go gym with you. Don't go out 24/7. Proud owner of a cat named Squamp. Days Reagan has been rotting in hell. 6,838. Imagine hating someone so much that not only were you wishing they were burning in hell, but also mention that on a dating profile. No matter how you feel about Ronald Reagan, you have to admit this is hilariously dumb. No Bass Pro hats, American flags, Ron John shirts, no dead animal, parentheses conservative. Other than that, hit me up. Also, if your name is Tyler, don't talk to me, LMAO. Again, imagine hating someone so much that you have to tell people this on Tinder. In general, I think it's dumb to hate someone on political stereotypes and stuff, but especially to this level. Because I can guarantee that this individual would be pissed if someone made a profile stating that they hate girls with dyed short hair, with pronouns in their bios. Either way, it's kind of lame to do. The part that angers me is making fun of guys who fish. In most photos of guys holding a fish, it's still alive and is about to be put back in the water. Just a really dumb thing to say. Let me use their own logic against them and assume this Tinder user spends her time collecting crystals and judging people based on their astrology sign. You don't know what my sign is, Emily? It's a stop sign, cause it's time to stop! I speak fluent sarcasm. This is such a common phrase of Tinder girls that it went from snarky to just plain annoying. Looking for a plug. Probably up there is the dumbest reason to have Tinder, besides two others I'll end this segment on. I don't know how this is allowed this blatantly, but here we are. 5-foot psych major at who wants to rehabilitate criminals. I pride myself in my ability to have positive and effective communication. Won't settle for someone who isn't will.to.I love games, especially Arcade Monster. Anime, having fun and meeting new people, and going to the gym. Be my human coloring book? Open to everything but hookups. I have PTSD. Not for you? Cool. Don't swipe if you're vanilla. We won't be compatible. I legit can't have sex without kink. I'm a sub who occasionally switch. Ignoring the awful grammar, what baffles me the most is the juxtaposition. She hates the idea of hookups, which is understandable, but then goes on to mention their kinks. If you don't want to meet people for sex, why even mention this? This is without a doubt the worst written Tinder bio I've ever seen. Kinda a bitch, so don't take it personally. Sexy car, sexy bitch, bonus points if you're goth/alt. I love munchies. Really paints a picture, doesn't it? Here's someone whose age is listed as 20, while then stating, well, I'm actually 41. I love the young guys. Just checking out this app. It's all new to me. I like the outdoors and fitness. Just saying, if the roles were reversed and it was a dude writing this, people would find it a lot weirder. Mainly just the fact that they intentionally lied about their age this way for some fresh meat. Future MILF. Funny, goofy, kinda antisocial, and hella other shit describe me. Take me on a date. I'm only dry in the beginning because new things scare me. I'm a whole different person once I'm comfortable. PSA, I'm a virgin, stop trying to jud fuck me. Dark humor, I'm like 5'11". I also have no ass at all. 420 friendly, obviously. Now let's mention a few dudes. This one guy noticed the second image I use, which shows an alligator on a four-wheeler. Just a goofy meme I put to not make it seem like this was a scam account. He responded, "Can you bend me like this alligator?" Not gonna lie, this man has balls. But obviously this is the worst way to start a conversation. Another guy started a knock-knock joke, to which I went along until he referred to me as a passenger princess, so I just sent him some demonic text. I did this with another guy and he actually had a funny response to this. This guy said, "I'm trying to give you the best massage of your life." This witty man's bio says, "My grandma called me handsome one time, so I'm still riding off that high. If you see me in public, throw a rock at the back of my head as hard as you can. I love to kiss your beautiful precious lips and the ones on your face." Now let's mention the worst two types of people on Tinder. First are girls who have their Cash App listed in their bio. There is no reason to have this in there unless you simply want random men on the internet to pay you. I can guarantee that this person begs men to pay them right as they start off a conversation, asking $20 for gas money. Anyone with this does not want a serious relationship and is just plain greedy. Even worse than that is OnlyFans girls, which is a topic I've wanted to rant about on this channel for some time now. They are way more common on here than you think, as they try to hide this fact on Tinder. Instead, you will see an Instagram listed, which will lead to a Linktree page, and on there is an OnlyFans. Other girls won't hide it at all and just plainly list it. I have a problem with this for multiple reasons. First of all, if an OnlyFans girl is genuinely looking for a relationship, it's going to be rightfully hard for them. Most guys, including myself, won't date someone whose life and work revolve so much around sex and showing promiscuity. I'm sure a few of you think this mindset is insecure, but it's really the opposite. I think most guys want a real relationship, built on trust and loyalty, not just sex. Even if someone from OnlyFans doesn't want that, good luck trying to convince people. You'd want commitment in a relationship, but that prospect seems less likely if you were to date someone with an OnlyFans. I also just find the platform itself so scummy with how it conducts business, and I'm so confused why so many people choose to defend it. It's become this feminist issue somehow, though many would agree it's the opposite of female empowerment. I mean, you're literally making money off horny, degenerate men. How is relying on the other gender for success empowering in any way? It's fair to say a lot of people defending OnlyFans don't know much about it themselves. They just blindly defend things that only slightly have to do with women's success. This all promotes a toxic lifestyle for both the people who use the service and those making money off of it to please those buyers. And don't get me wrong, the people who use OnlyFans are just as deplorable to me as the women making money off of it. These are men that have such a hard time socializing that they resort to shilling money for basic interactions. This will only make it harder for them to actually interact with real people and get them deep into porn addictions. Plus, why would you pay for porn? There's so much free porn online that it's insane. The women promoting themselves on OnlyFans are just as messed up in the head, and some have even come forward explaining how. Making content here makes it pretty easy for you to get harassed, stalked, it causes a rift between opposing family members, most barely make enough money to sustain themselves, and if one chooses to switch career paths, that might be pretty difficult. A lot of places aren't going to hire you if they can so easily find the lewd shit you post online, but people still defend it, usually turning a blind eye to the astronomical amount of negatives just because a select few are making money off of it. Speaking of which, the celebrities and other famous individuals who use it are the most scummy to me. I briefly mentioned this in my Tana Mojo episode of YouTube history, but I find it so ridiculous that these people will just repost their more lewd Instagram posts to OnlyFans and add a paywall. Barely any new content, just another avenue for money. My main question is, why do these people need the money? You're already rich. This doesn't affect you positively in any way. In fact, it merely just tarnishes your reputation as someone who makes money in any way possible. The only person on OnlyFans that's likable is Markiplier. Sure, he's a wealthy dude, but he posts tasteful nudes and donates the revenue to charity. Now, that's wholesome. So what the hell does this rant have to do with Tinder? Well, I definitely think that Tinder is complacent in this culture. I mean, they for sure support hookup culture, and while they don't give the same treatment to OnlyFans, they definitely look the other way when it comes to it being more rampant. The fact that so many of these girls knowingly and unknowingly lie to guys about their OnlyFans accounts is ridiculous. Many just want to promote these sneakily without arousing too much suspicion. Now, something my mate Sean would bring up a few times during the podcast was the prevalence of hookup culture on Tinder. He believed that it had a much larger reach over the app than I initially realized, and by the end I was in the same thought process as him.
The culture isn't, hey, I actually really like you, let's try to connect and let's grab dinner or something. It's like, it's just so burnt down and whittled down to the extremes, which are sex. And which are attraction. That's all Tinder is sex and attraction. It's like it's not the right medium to actually connect with someone and build a relationship. Because if someone, it's really hard to do it over that. It's kind of the same thing with Instagram. If you want to be authentic on Instagram, you're gonna have a hard time because it's not. That environment isn't built for authenticity. That environment is built for surface level, quick thinking, quick judgments. Same way Tinder isn't built for making good, quality, long-term relationships. It's built for hookups.
Sex is everywhere on here. People trying to subtly insinuate wanting to hook up in their bios and certain lewd photos on their profiles. I mean, I was genuinely surprised some of these accounts are allowed to stay up, but as mentioned a few minutes ago, Tinder turns a blind eye to rampant sexualization on the platform. Something I never noticed before was how sexual the ads were. I only screenshotted one, which is a flat-out STD test. On its own, that's okay, but I remember seeing others for sex toys and condoms. Now, I'm no expert in this topic. All I'm really saying about hookup culture is that Tinder is the prime place for it. Knowingly or not, Tinder is a platform both men and women use to meet for casual sex. I don't have an issue with the concept of hookups itself, but just the normalization of it when compared to basic relationships. Hookups just seem kind of lazy in comparison. To end this section off, I wanted to read this Quora post from this man named Rolando. He says, because I feel like it treats people as disposable commodities. Use it and be done with it. I don't like the idea of treating any kind of intimacy so casually. I'm aware that this is an activity in which both people consent to, but it just doesn't fly with me. It's like playing a game, and I don't like playing games with people. That kind of behavior borders on the sociopathic. It's for people who like to take shortcuts. Due to the fact that this approach is becoming some sort of universal social standard, I also don't appreciate the derision of my beliefs as backwards, religious, or prudish. For someone who is agnostic at best, the tenet that people need to form bonds beyond the physical holds true to my heart, and is not based on any imposed moral code or religion.
So I ask you again, what do we do about Tinder?
Again, I don't think it's going to go away, but I just think we need to change the environment of it.
If you could go to like an in-person, like near you at your said college, if you could go to like a speed dating event or a mingle event where everybody, had no phones and everybody was forced to just talk and conversate and actually meet each other, like, do you think that could help as an alternative?
Dude, I genuinely think speed dating is like a good thing.
Do you like wish that you had that near you?
I kind of do. It's more of an old person thing. I've only ever seen it specifically, obviously, in Practical Jokers, right? Mm-hmm. There's this one punishment where they have Q at a speed dating event, but his punishment is that he has turkey legs taped to his arms, so he has to eat it. But that was a good conversation starter.
Right.
So it kind of backfired on them, and there were girls genuinely, they didn't know who he was from TV. They were like, they genuinely wanted to talk to him because he seemed interesting.
He had turkey legs.
Yeah.
Do I think Tinder is going to change for the better? Nope. I say this because as I was working on this documentary, news came out of users using AI to talk with matches, in particular men using this as some sort of solution to the whole gender disparity problem. My issue with this is that this is a horrible solution. Using AI to talk for you is not the way to connect with people. It's just a more advanced version of catfishing that will make the Tinder experience way worse for everyone. For men, it will make them rely more on chatbots to communicate and make them less likely to find a legit connection. And for women, it makes them less safe. It makes it harder for them to find red flags on a guy if every word is being put together by a bot. I just hate that this is the direction Tinder is going, but what are you gonna do? I'm going to hypothesize that they will try to sell people the solution to this and just make more money, which is all they really care about. They won't ever change until all who use it permanently leave, but with the rising levels of loneliness, don't expect anything big to happen.